In this video, I want to talk about being grateful in good times as well as bad times. And I want to share a testimony, an incident that happened to me when I was about 18, 19 years old. And this was during the time when there was absolutely no cell phone. So if you was out and about and you needed to call someone or call home or whatever, you had to do it by going to a payphone and making a phone call. So this particular day, I was driving on the expressway. And if you ever drove on the expressway, you know there's some areas where you can pull over on the side of the road and you're safely off the road. It's a grassy area. Then there's some parts of the expressway where you really can't pull over. If something happened and you stop, you're basically stopped in the road, or you're barely able to get off to the side, but it's still, your car is like halfway in the road itself. Excuse me. So on this particular day, I was driving on the expressway, and as I'm driving, my car just cut off. It just stopped working. So I pulled over to the side of the road, and I tried to crank it up. It wouldn't crank up. So I'm basically praying to God, please let my car crank up. Let my car crank up. It did not crank up. So, like I said, there's no cell phone. So the only thing I can do is just get out of my car and start walking to get to the exit, to finally get to a corner store, local store, a convenience store, to be able to make a phone call to get my mom to come pick me up. So I get out my car, I'm upset, it's hot, I'm on the expressway, and I know it's going to be a long walk for me to get to the exit. And so as I'm walking, this car pulls up, and because of how, if you're driving fast in the traffic, and by the time you get over to pull over to stop, there was like a distance between myself and the car. And as I see them pulling over, I could see that it's a bunch of guys in the car. I'm over it as far as walking on the expressway. I'm hot, I'm miserable, I'm upset, I'm mad that my car is not working. So I just say to God, it's like, I know it's not a good idea for me to get in a car with strangers, especially when it looks like it's about 4 guys in the car. But if they're offering me a ride, I'm going to take it. I just hope they're not, rapists, serial killers, or whatever. And so as I'm saying this, and I'm having this conversation with God, I hear another car pull up behind me. So I turn and look, and this car was the State Highway Patrol. So I stop. He gets out the car, and he's like, "What you doing walking up here on the expressway?" I'm like, "Well, my car broke down." I'm like, "You seen the car back there, a ways back?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, that's my car. I don't know what's wrong with it." So he's like, "Well, do you know those people in the car up there?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Well, are you going to get a ride with them?" I'm like, "Well, if they was offering me a ride, I was going to take it." So he's like, "Well, do you want to take a chance with me, or do you want to take a chance with them?" So I kind of looked in the direction where the car was, and then I looked back at him. I looked at the direction where the car was, looked back at him again. I said, "Well, I think I'll take my chances with you." He's like, "Yeah, I think that's a good choice." So I get in the car with him. He takes me, he drops me off at 7-Eleven, and I was able to call my mom, and she was able to come pick me up. And then my dad, because he took care of my car and stuff like that, he called, he was able to get a tow truck to come tow my car off the expressway and then take it to the shop so it can be repaired. And so the reason I'm telling this story, or my testimony, is because a lot of times as Christians, we get upset when things go wrong in our lives. That's just human nature. But in the Bible, it says, "Count it all joy," regardless if you have something good happen to you or bad happen to you. You're supposed to count it all as joy. And anytime we're in a situation like that, we need to kind of stop and look at, yes, this was a bad situation. This was a situation that was unfortunately that I didn't want to be in. Good things happen to Christians. Good things happen to non-Christians. Bad things happen to Christians. Bad things happen to non-Christians. That's just life. That's just the way life is. So what I can, at the time when this happened to me, I was just upset. I was mad, and I didn't see anything good in this situation. But when you look back on the situation, the things that I can now say I can be grateful for, even though it was a bad situation, was when my car stopped, it stopped on the side, it stopped on the grassy area. It could have easily cut off in the road. Somebody could have ran in the back of me. Everything like that could have happened if it would have stopped in some other area that wasn't safe. But it stopped in the area that was safe, where I was able to fully pull off of the road and have my car in the grassy area, that even me leaving the car, it still was safe. It wasn't going to be stuck in the middle of the road, inconveniencing to anyone or anything like that. It was in a safe place. So I can be grateful for that. The second thing I can be grateful for, because I didn't know those guys that was in the car, they could have been good Samaritans. They could have been, willing to help me out, drop me off or whatever. But at the same time, someone that's safer came along, which was the highway patrol, knowing that this is their job to patrol the highway, to make sure, if somebody's car break down, they're able to call, a tow truck or whatever. That's basically their job, plus other things on the highway. So he was able to come, pull up. I was able to get in the car with him, a safe person, and get where I need to go without any drama, without any going back and forth. Like I said, because I don't know if these guys was good Samaritans or if they had something, evil in mind, seeing me up there walking. So I can be grateful that the highway patrol came along when he did. Then the other thing you need to think about is this: if as Christians, nothing ever bad happened to us, just say everything happened good, we would never see the goodness of God. We would never see God showing up in our lives and showing how great he is. Because why would he need to show up if everything is going great in our lives anyway? We don't need him at that point. That's why a lot of people don't pray in good times, because they feel like, oh, I got this, I got everything I need. We only see the goodness of God. Well, we should see it all the time, but we mostly see it when bad things happen to us and then he shows up. And so he's able to shine, even when something bad happened to us, he's able to shine to say, hey, as a reminder, I'm still here. I'm still looking at you. I still have my hand on you. And then the second thing you need to think about is, if you never have a test, how can you ever have a testimony? How can you ever tell your story to help someone else who might be going through the same thing, or to motivate someone else, or to bring someone else in the kingdom who may not, believe in God or know God, but you could tell, hey, I was in that same situation. This is what I went through. This is what happened to me. This is how God brought me through it. And so you're telling them that story, and that may make them say, let me take a look at what it is to be a Christian. Let me look in that direction, because like I said, one of our jobs is to bring people to the kingdom. So without a test, without going through anything, what are you going to tell a person who's currently going through something? You have to be relatable to people for them to want to listen to you. It's one thing for you to never had a bad day, but then you're trying to tell someone else how to get through a bad day. They're going to look at you like, how would you know? You never had a bad day. So that's what going through testimony, going through trial and tribulation is about. It's not always about us. It's about how can we use this to glorify the kingdom of God. And then the other thing we need to think about is this: when you're going through trials and tribulations in your life, like I said, it happens to everybody. It happens to good people. In the Bible it says, rain falls on the just as well as the unjust. So like I said, with me, when it was happening to me, I was in the moment. I wasn't thinking about all this other stuff. It's like I thought about it once I came out of that situation. But if you could take the time to look at a bad situation and say, what did I learn from this situation? what can I do? Was this situation because I put myself in this situation, or because I had someone else in my life? Or, what can I learn from this situation so I can move past it and never have to go through this again? Or how to deal with it better. If this same situation came up, now I know what to do. Now I know how to deal with it better. And then, and then it also helps you to be grateful, because if you go through a bad situation, you make it through, you learn the lesson from it. This is the lesson I learned. This is how I'm going to maneuver next time. And I'm grateful that I had that experience. I'm grateful that I was able to go through that experience, and now I can share with other people who I might see or I might know who's going through the same thing I'm going through. And so that's basically what I wanted to say. It's just, as Christians, we need to focus more on counting it as joy, even when we're going through trials and tribulation, and understand that God is there with us through everything, through every trial, through every tribulation, and He will always be there for us. So, peace.